Joining me now, Maine Independent Senator Angus King, member of the Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. Senator, very good to see you. I want to start with the confirmations. Good to see you. We've got Avril Haines. She's now been confirmed at 7 o'clock last night. She's the first step. But Josh Hawley, even though now we have someone, thankfully, at DNI in charge of the intelligence agencies, Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, is already blocking the Department of Health of, DHS,
Homeland
Secretary
Security,
in charge of Secret Service, immigration, enforcement, other key agencies at Homeland. So what are we going to see going forward? Of course, this is the same Josh Hawley who was one of the instigators of the Electoral College challenge. And I am obviously struggling with
I don't know what Josh Hawley's up to.
He's talking yesterday. Yeah.
I don't know what Josh Hawley's up to. He's already sort of harmed his reputation in the Senate, and this seems to be another step in that direction. The good news is I believe we're going to be able to confirm Lloyd Austin as Secretary of Defense later today or this evening, and we'll be moving through most of these confirmations. There have been some sporadic points of opposition, but I think we'll be able to get the cabinet in place, at least the national security people, within the next few days, early next week. So we have DNI, as you said, and we'll have hopefully defense tonight. So I think we will be able to make the sufficient progress.
Well, Senator, when you say that you're going to have defense by tonight, that means that there's not going to be a problem on the waivers, because you have to have you have the House vote coming up, and the Senate is also going to vote to waive the requirement that he be 7 years out of uniform.
Well, the vote in the Armed Services Committee, which took place about an hour ago, was supportive of the waiver, and I think there were some reluctant votes on that. I was one of them, but I voted yes to allow the waiver, because I think we need a Secretary of Defense. I think Lloyd Austin is the right guy. I think he's going to surround himself with civilians in his office. So I was persuaded that this was the right move. That the support for the waiver passed the Armed Services Committee. Will be going to the floor probably about 4:30 this afternoon, and then shortly thereafter, assuming it passes in both the House and the Senate, we'll be going directly to the confirmation this evening.
Now, you're one of the senators who works so well with moderate Democrats and Republicans. Do you think that there are 60 votes in the Senate for either the Biden COVID package or something close to it? Or do you think you're going to have to resort to reconciliation and doing it, with 50-50 and getting Kamala Harris to exercise that privilege of the vice president?
Well, I think the key term you used is something close to it. I don't think we'll be able to pull the entire package as is. That rarely is the case. The old saying is the president proposes and the Congress disposes. So I think there'll be negotiation. But I'm hopeful we will be able to get 60 votes. I think most people on both sides of the aisle realize the job isn't done with regard to COVID, that there's more work necessary in terms of assistance to states and localities, vaccine distribution. You just had an important section on that. That's going to take additional resources, support for individuals. So I think there's going to be a fair amount of debate. But I'm reasonably optimistic that we'll be able to get 60 votes. And it's better when we can. Then you've got bipartisan buy-in, and I think that's a much stronger position to work from.
Based on what you know now, would you vote to convict Donald Trump?
Well, I don't like to say in advance because I haven't heard all the evidence. I will say that his actions after the election, particularly after about the 1st of December, when it was absolutely clear what the outcome was profoundly damaging to our country. The most damaging activity on behalf of a U.S. president that I've ever seen. He basically delegitimized the democratic process. He misled millions and millions of people. He then invited the mob to Washington in December. He sent a tweet that said, see you in D.C. on January 6th. It will be wild. And then, of course, he riled up the mob that morning. I think there's some questions we need to answer, though, Andrea, to really have a totally clear picture of this. One is, what intelligence did he have that morning or the day before as to the nature of the crowd and what their proclivities were, what their plans were? If he knew in advance that this was a crowd that was prone toward violence and that they were planning to storm the Capitol, it seems to me that makes his culpability even greater. The second question is, what did he do that afternoon when it was going on? Did he, in fact, sit in the White House and just watch TV and think it was pretty cool? Or was he deeply concerned and tried to shut it down? Unfortunately, he didn't take any real action to try to shut it down until several hours into the melee at the Capitol. So I think those two things are going to have an important influence on the outcome. But I have to say, Andrea, it's a very unusual situation where the jury are also witnesses to what went on.
Witnesses and experiencing it in a profound way. I want to ask you briefly about China, which has slapped really tough sanctions against Secretary Pompeo, Peter Navarro, John Bolton, a host of other people. I could imagine that some of the people in Joe Biden's administration, including the president, would be very sympathetic and very critical of what Pompeo and others did toward China, harmful to the relationship. But can they really stand by and not do anything with China sanctioning such top officials?
Well, I think we have to respond, but we have to respond in a thoughtful way. And I think one of the most important changes in policy is that we respond in a multilateral way. In other words, it's not just us. Donald Trump was right that China needed to be confronted. But to do it, to irritate all of our allies and then turn your attention to China unilaterally has manifestly not been effective. So I think we do need to respond to these sanctions, but it would be much stronger if we did so in the context of international support. And I hope that's the direction the Biden administration will move in.
Senator King, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us today. And
pleasure. Nice to be with you, Andrew.